You may believe that your biggest problem is what is happening around you. The unanswered message, the money that is not enough, the opportunity that disappeared, the relationship that changed, the door that refuses to open. But what if there is another place where your life is being shaped long before you see the result outside of you? Inside your own mind, what happens inside you every time something does not go according to plan? What sentence appears before you even realize you are afraid? What do you say to yourself when money becomes uncertain? Do you immediately think, "This always happens to me"? What do you assume when someone stops responding? Do you quietly tell yourself they are going to leave? What happens when an opportunity disappears? Does your mind whisper, "I knew I would fail"? And when you pray for something you deeply desire but nothing changes immediately, what does your inner voice say then? Maybe it will never happen. Maybe I am not worthy. Maybe God has forgotten me. Now pause for a moment, because there is something here that most people never examine. What if your mind is not simply observing your life? What if it is constantly interpreting your life? What if every interpretation becomes another instruction about what you should expect next? You may say that you want peace while mentally rehearsing disaster. You may desire abundance while repeatedly predicting shortage. You may long for love while preparing yourself for abandonment. You may want confidence while calling yourself incapable every time you make a mistake. And if that sounds familiar, do not judge yourself. You are not broken. You are not spiritually defective. You are not being punished because your thoughts are sometimes fearful. You are human. The mind learns through repetition. It becomes familiar with whatever you repeatedly rehearse. A fearful prediction repeated for years can begin to feel like intuition. A limitation repeated often enough can begin to sound like identity. A painful expectation can become so familiar that peace itself begins to feel suspicious. And this is where the journey becomes important. We are not here to blame you for every difficulty you have experienced. Not every hardship is created by negative thinking. Life contains circumstances, loss, uncertainty, other people's choices and realities that cannot be reduced to the condition of one person's mind. But there is a part of your inner world that you can influence. Your interpretation, your inner dialogue, your expectations, your response. And perhaps this is where the forgotten power begins. Florence Scovel Shinn approached spiritual life through ideas such as the power of spoken words, faith, intuition, non-resistance, divine order, and the consciousness from which a person approaches life. Her teachings invite a deeper question, not simply what am I saying, but what consciousness is speaking through me. Because words are not always powerful merely because they are positive. A person can repeat beautiful words while secretly expecting disappointment. They can say everything is working out while internally preparing for everything to collapse. The deeper transformation happens when the words begin to agree with a different inner position. That is why this journey is not about forcing yourself to think perfectly. It is about becoming conscious. It is about noticing which voice has been receiving authority inside you. And if you are ready to explore that inner world with us, subscribe to this channel for daily motivational and spiritual teachings designed to help you understand consciousness, strengthen faith, transform your inner dialogue, and live with greater purpose. Now come back to yourself. Imagine that your mind is a room you have lived inside for years. Some sentences are written on the walls. Some were written by fear, some by disappointment, some by things people told you when you were young. Some were created during moments when life hurt so deeply that your mind decided never to be surprised again. Perhaps one sentence says, "I have to struggle for everything." Perhaps another says, "Nothing ever works for me." Perhaps another whispers, "I cannot trust anyone." You may not consciously choose these sentences anymore. They simply appear. That is the mystery. The mind becomes familiar with what it repeatedly practices. But familiarity is not truth. A thought can be familiar and still be false. A fear can be loud and still not be guidance. An old identity can feel permanent and still be ready to change. Picture someone sitting alone before sunrise. The room is dark. Their hands rest quietly. On the table is a piece of paper covered with sentences they have repeated for years. As the first light enters the room, they begin reading them. For the first time, they do not immediately believe them. They simply observe them, and something changes. The mirror becomes clearer. The room becomes lighter. The clock continues moving. But now the person is no longer completely asleep inside their own story. That is the beginning. Not controlling every thought. Not fighting every fear. Not pretending everything is perfect. Simply noticing what has been speaking through you. Because once the invisible becomes visible, you finally have a choice. And imagine that every sentence you have repeated throughout, your life has been quietly writing instructions into your inner world. What happens when those instructions are no longer invisible? What happens when you finally hear the words beneath your words? And what happens when you discover why why Florence Scovel Shinn placed such profound importance on the spoken word. If your repeated sentences are quietly influencing what your mind notices, expects, and rehearses, then your words deserve far more attention than you may have ever given them. Because a sentence can leave your mouth in a few seconds and remain inside your mind for years. Think about that. One sentence spoken during a moment of fear can become a prediction you carry into tomorrow. One sentence spoken about yourself can become an identity you defend without realizing it. One sentence repeated during disappointment can become a lens through which you interpret everything that follows. This is why the question from the beginning becomes more important now. What if your mind has been listening to you all along? Florence Scovel Shinn's metaphysical teaching placed unusual importance on the spoken word because in her framework, words were not merely sounds passing through the air. They revealed direction. They revealed expectation. They revealed the inner position from which a person was meeting life. The deeper principle is not that you can speak one perfect sentence and command the universe to deliver a specific result. It is much more subtle than that. Your words can reveal what your consciousness has been practicing, and once you become aware of that practice, you can begin changing it. Consider the difference between saying, "I hope everything works out." There is nothing wrong with hope, but listen carefully to the position hidden inside those words. I hope, I am waiting, I do not know. I am outside the outcome looking in. Now consider another possibility. I am willing to meet what comes with clarity and trust. The circumstances may be exactly the same. The future may still be unknown, but the inner posture has changed. You are no longer asking fear to predict the future before the future arrives. You are preparing yourself to meet it consciously. That is the power of spiritually aligned language. It does not require pretending that everything is perfect. It requires refusing to let fear become the final authority. Listen to another sentence. I always fail. How many times have you heard someone say this? Maybe you have said it yourself, but what does that sentence actually teach the mind? It turns one experience into an identity. It transforms an event into a verdict. Now replace it with something more truthful. I am learning to respond differently when something does not work. Notice what happened. You did not lie to yourself. You did not pretend failure never happens. You simply removed the word always from the throne. That is a profound inner shift. I always fail closes the door before you reach it. I am learning leaves room for movement, or perhaps your sentence is, nothing ever changes. What if you said instead, I am open to recognizing the next possibility? Again, you are not denying your present circumstances. You are refusing to declare that the present moment has authority over the entire future. This distinction matters because the mind has a tendency to search for evidence that confirms what it already believes. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are unlucky, you may begin noticing every inconvenience while overlooking moments of support. If you believe people always leave a delayed response, may feel like abandonment before you have any real evidence that abandonment is occurring. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you cannot change an opportunity to grow, may appear, and your mind may immediately explain why it will not work, then something fascinating happens. The thought influences the interpretation. The interpretation influences the emotion. The emotion influences the behavior. The behavior influences the experience, and the experience can then appear to confirm the original thought. A circle is created, not because your mind possesses supernatural control over every event, but because your inner assumptions influence what you notice, how you respond, what you attempt, what you avoid, and what possibilities you are willing to recognize. This is where metaphysical teaching and modern psychological understanding begin to touch the same mysterious territory. Your inner conversation matters. So ask yourself something honestly. What sentence have you repeated so often that you no longer question it? What prediction do you make before life has even given you evidence? What do you say about yourself that you would never say to someone you deeply love? Maybe your sentence is, I am too late. Maybe it is, I am not chosen. Maybe it is, money never stays. Maybe it is, I have to do everything alone. Maybe it is simply, something will go wrong. Do not fight the sentence. Study it. There is wisdom in observation. Take a moment and imagine that you are standing before the inner mirror of your consciousness. You are not there to condemn what you see. You are there to understand it. Take 3 sentences that frequently appear when you are stressed. Write them down. Then look at each one. Is this fear? Is this identity? Is this a prediction? Is this an observation? Is this something I actually know? Or is this something I have rehearsed? Then ask a deeper question. What would be a more truthful sentence that gives my mind room to respond wisely? Not an exaggerated affirmation, not a fantasy, a truthful spiritual reframe. Instead of, I am going to lose everything, perhaps say, I will face what is real and take the next wise step. Instead of, nobody understands me, perhaps say, I can communicate honestly and allow the right invite relationships to reveal themselves. Instead of, nothing is working, perhaps say, I cannot see the whole path yet, but I can respond to what is in front of me. This is not weakness. This is discipline of consciousness. Now, picture the divine architect. There is a desk inside you. Thoughts are sketches spread across that desk. Words become instructions placed upon the blueprint. Emotion becomes the atmosphere in which the structure is being imagined. Actions become the physical labor that gives those ideas expression. And divine order represents the greater intelligence beyond your personal control. You are not becoming the architect of the universe. You are becoming more conscious of the blueprint you are carrying. That distinction protects you from spiritual fantasy while preserving spiritual power. You do not have to control every event. You do not have to know every answer. You do not have to force tomorrow into existence, but you can become intentional about the voice you repeatedly listen to today. You can choose words that create space for courage. You can choose language that does not turn uncertainty into catastrophe. You can choose an inner conversation that allows faith to breathe. And perhaps tonight, before you sleep, place your hand over your heart and say quietly, may my words become instruments of truth. May I stop rehearsing what I fear. May I speak from wisdom before I speak from panic. May I remain open to what I cannot yet see. Then sit quietly. Do not force anything. Let the words settle, because the word matters. The affirmation matters. The prayer matters. But there is another layer beneath all of them. You can change the words. You can change the affirmation. You can even change the prayer. Yet sometimes beautiful words still feel powerless. Why? Because there is a hidden force that can quietly contradict everything you are saying. And before you can understand how to release it, you have to recognize its name: resistance. What if the very thing you have been asking for is not being resisted by life, but being resisted inside you? Think about that for a moment. You say, I trust. But somewhere beneath those words, another voice whispers, it has to happen now. You say, I am open to abundance. Yet your mind spends the entire day calculating everything that could go wrong. You say, I am ready for love. But when someone becomes distant, your heart immediately prepares for rejection. You say, I believe in divine timing. Then you check your phone again, and again, and again. You search for signs. You analyze silence. You measure progress. You wonder whether your prayer has been heard. The mouth speaks possibility. The nervous system rehearses danger. And this is where something profound begins to reveal itself. Sometimes the greatest conflict is not between you and your circumstances. It is between the desire you consciously declare and the expectation you unconsciously carry. You want peace, but your inner world remains prepared for war. You want freedom, but your thoughts keep rehearsing everything that could imprison you. You want change, but a familiar part of you keeps whispering, what if nothing ever changes? This does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. Your mind has learned patterns through experience. If disappointment happened repeatedly, your mind may begin expecting disappointment before anything has actually gone wrong. If rejection happened before, you may begin searching for rejection inside ordinary silence. If money was once connected with fear, uncertainty may immediately activate panic. And if you have spent years believing that everything must be controlled, uncertainty can feel almost unbearable. This is where the spiritual teaching of non-resistance becomes more than a beautiful idea. Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized the importance of releasing resistance and allowing divine order to unfold rather than attempting to force every circumstance into a predetermined shape. Non-resistance does not mean weakness. It does not mean allowing someone to mistreat you. It does not mean sitting still while ignoring responsibility. It does not mean abandoning wise action. Non-resistance means refusing to let fear become the authority over your interpretation of life. It means you can acknowledge reality without worshiping your worst prediction. You can recognize a problem without turning that problem into your identity. You can experience uncertainty without declaring that uncertainty means disaster. There is a difference between responding to life and fighting every unknown possibility inside your imagination. Resistance says, I must know how. Non-resistance says, I can take the next step without knowing the entire path. Resistance says, it must happen exactly this way. Non-resistance says, I can remain faithful to the good without controlling its form. Resistance says, if I cannot see it, nothing is happening. Non-resistance says, my perception is not the complete picture. Feel the difference. One voice tightens, the other creates room. One demands, the other listens. One tries to command the divine orchestra before hearing the entire composition. The other learns to recognize its place within the music. Imagine a person standing before an enormous gate. The gate is ancient, heavy, silent. They believe this gate leads directly into the life they have been praying for. So they push. Nothing happens. They pull. Nothing happens. They push harder. Their hands begin to hurt. Their breathing becomes heavy, still nothing. After every failed attempt, they tell themselves another painful story. Maybe I am not worthy. Maybe God does not want this for me. Maybe everyone else gets their chance except me. Maybe I am destined to remain outside. The gate has not spoken a single word, yet the person has already turned its silence into a verdict. Eventually, exhausted, they stop pushing. Not because they have abandoned their desire, not because they have decided that nothing matters. They simply become still. And in that stillness, something changes. They look to the side. There is a narrow path. It curves around the gate and disappears into the trees. It had been there the entire time. They could not see it, while all of their attention was consumed by forcing the locked door. Now understand the deeper meaning. This does not mean every problem disappears when you relax. It does not mean every closed door is secretly hiding a better opportunity. Life is more complex than that. The lesson is that fixation can narrow perception. When fear becomes the only lens through which you look, possibilities can become invisible. You may become so focused on getting one particular answer that you fail to notice another question life is asking you. What if you are exhausting yourself, trying to force a route rather than pursuing the deeper desire? What if the closed door is not a verdict about your worth? What if the delay is giving you time to develop something that the next chapter will require? What if surrender is not losing power? What if surrender is returning power to the part of you that can actually choose wisely? This is the whisper of release. You can desire something deeply without gripping it desperately. You can pray without demanding a specific route. You can act without trying to control every consequence. You can hold a vision while allowing divine timing to remain larger than your personal schedule. That is not passivity. That is spiritual maturity. Try this with me now. Think of one desire that matters deeply to you. Name it clearly. Perhaps you desire financial stability. Perhaps you desire a healthier relationship. Perhaps you desire meaningful work. Perhaps you desire peace within yourself. Now name the fear attached to it. If the desire is financial stability, perhaps the fear is, I will never have enough. If the desire is love, perhaps the fear is, I will always be left. If the desire is purpose, perhaps the fear is, I have already missed my opportunity. Do not fight the fear, simply see it. Then say quietly, I acknowledge this fear, but I do not give it authority over my future. Now release the demand that your desire must arrive through one specific route. Say, I know what I desire. I release the need to dictate every detail of how it arrives. Guide my choices toward what is wise, truthful, and aligned. Take a slow breath. Imagine yourself standing before that great silent gate. This time, you do not push it. You step back, you breathe, you allow your eyes to widen. You look around, then ask yourself, what am I not seeing? Because I am afraid. Do not force an answer. Let the question settle. Perhaps your soul's compass does not speak through urgency. Perhaps guidance arrives quietly. Perhaps the next step is smaller than you expected. Perhaps it is a conversation, a decision, a boundary, an application, a disciplined habit, a moment of forgiveness, a willingness to stop repeating an old story. The miracle is not that you suddenly control the road ahead. The miracle is that you become capable of seeing more of the road. And once resistance begins to loosen, another question rises naturally from the silence. If you are no longer forcing the outcome, what can you trust while the answer is still unfolding? That is where the divine clock begins to reveal its deeper meaning. There are moments in life when you look at the same unanswered question for so long that you begin to mistake the silence for an answer. You prayed, you acted, you waited, and still the thing you hoped for has not appeared. So the mind begins its interrogation. How much longer? Why not me? Did I miss my chance? Maybe I am not worthy. Maybe my prayer failed. Maybe nothing is changing. But what if you have confused the absence of visible evidence with the absence of movement? Just because something has not appeared does not mean nothing is happening. And yet there is another truth you must hold at the same time. Divine timing should never become an excuse for refusing to live. Waiting can become preparation, but waiting can also become avoidance. Faith without action can quietly become passivity. Action without faith can become desperation. The deeper path is something more balanced. Responsible movement without obsessive control. This is where the image of the divine clock becomes meaningful. Imagine that you are standing beneath two clocks. The first is your human clock. It moves according to urgency, deadlines, comparison, age, money, other people's progress, the expectations you placed upon yourself years ago. You look at this clock and think, it should have happened by now. You see someone else receiving what you wanted, and suddenly your own clock seems to move faster. You hear good news from another person, and your mind asks why your chapter has not opened yet. But beside this clock is another one, the divine clock. Not a literal clock in the sky, a symbol for everything you cannot fully measure from where you stand. Readiness, growth, unseen circumstances, changing relationships, new information, inner development, unexpected opportunities, the unfolding of events beyond your immediate perception. These two clocks can appear to disagree. Your clock says, now. The deeper rhythm says, not yet. Your fear says, you are falling behind. Your soul's compass asks, what is this moment teaching you? This is where many people become spiritually exhausted. They begin measuring their worth against a calendar. They assume that because something has not happened by a certain date, it must never happen. But delay is not automatically denial. An unanswered prayer is not automatically abandonment. A closed opportunity is not automatically punishment. Sometimes the only thing a delay proves is that you do not yet know the complete story. Think of someone waiting for a major change in their life. For months, they hoped that one particular opportunity would finally appear. At first, the waiting felt unbearable. Every passing month became evidence that they had been forgotten. They checked their circumstances constantly. They compared themselves with others. They questioned their worth. They wondered whether they had somehow failed spiritually. But slowly, something unexpected began happening inside them. They became more disciplined. They stopped making decisions simply because they were afraid of missing out. They learned to sit with uncertainty without immediately reacting. They became more discerning about who deserved access to their energy. They stopped seeking approval from every person who entered their life. They began taking responsibility for the parts of their situation that were actually within their control. Nothing about this guaranteed that a particular outcome would eventually arrive. That is important. This is not a story about proving that spiritual waiting magically produces a predetermined reward. It is a story about preparation. The waiting period had changed the person who was waiting, and when a new opportunity eventually appeared, the most important difference was not simply that something had arrived. The difference was that they could finally meet it from a different inner position. They were less desperate, more discerning, more prepared, more capable of saying yes for the right reasons and no for the wrong ones. Sometimes the transformation you experience while waiting becomes more important than the timetable you were obsessing over. This is why desire and desperation must be separated. You are allowed to want something deeply. You are allowed to pray for it. You are allowed to work toward it. You are allowed to imagine a beautiful future. But your peace does not have to become hostage to one deadline. Hold the desire. Release the panic. Take the step. Release the demand for immediate evidence. Continue living. Continue learning. Continue becoming. This is the spirit of non-resistance. You are not abandoning your desire. You are abandoning the frantic belief that you must control every detail in order for your life to be safe. Close your eyes for a moment if you can. Imagine the divine clock moving quietly above you. You do not need to force its hands. You do not need to stop them. You simply recognize that there are parts of life you cannot command. Then place your attention on today, not next month, not 5 years from now. Today, ask yourself, what is actually mine to do today? Perhaps it is making the difficult phone call. Perhaps it is applying for the opportunity. Perhaps it is creating a budget. Perhaps it is ending a destructive pattern. Perhaps it is apologizing. Perhaps it is beginning the work you have been postponing. Perhaps it is resting because exhaustion has been disguising itself as ambition. Then ask another question. What would you do differently today if you trusted that you did not need to control the entire path? What practical step have you been postponing because you were waiting for certainty? What anxiety have you mistaken for intuition? Sometimes anxiety says, do something immediately or everything will collapse. Wisdom can sound much quieter. It may simply say, take the next right step. Now breathe slowly and let these words settle within you. Divine intelligence, guide me toward what is mine by right of divine order. Remove my fear of timing. Give me clarity for today's step and peace about tomorrow. Do not rush past that prayer. Let there be silence after it. Let the whisper of release move through the places where you have been demanding answers. You do not need to know the entire route to take the next step. You do not need to see the entire staircase to move upward. You do not need tomorrow's certainty to make today's wise decision. And perhaps this is what trusting divine timing really asks of you. Not that you stop caring, not that you stop acting, not that you sit beside the road waiting for destiny to carry you forward. It asks you to stop turning uncertainty into evidence that you have been abandoned. Let the human clock continue to measure time. Let the divine clock remind you that not everything meaningful can be measured by urgency. There are things growing beneath the surface. There are lessons becoming instincts. There are boundaries becoming stronger. There are fears losing their authority. There are choices becoming clearer. There are versions of you that cannot emerge while the old version is still demanding control. And this brings us to the next transformation, because releasing resistance is only the beginning. You can loosen your grip on the outcome. You can stop fighting avoiding the unknown. You can trust the unfolding. But if you continue speaking to yourself from the identity that believes you are always behind, always rejected, always struggling, then the old pattern will simply find another doorway. The next step is deeper. It is not about creating a louder affirmation. It is about changing the person from whom the affirmation is spoken. Who are you when nobody is watching? Not the person you present to the world, not the person you hope to become someday, not the version of yourself you describe when everything is going well. Who are you in the quiet moments, when nobody is applauding, when the phone is silent, when the opportunity has disappeared, when you are alone with your own thoughts? Because there is a version of you that speaks every day. It speaks before you make decisions. It speaks when something goes wrong. It speaks when someone does not respond. It speaks when money becomes uncertain. It speaks when you stand before something unfamiliar. And sometimes that private voice has been describing you for so long that you have stopped realizing it is only a voice. You call it reality. You call it personality. You call it experience. But perhaps it is an identity you learned. Listen carefully to the language you use. I am trying to become confident. I am trying to attract abundance. I hope I become peaceful. I am working toward becoming worthy. There is nothing wrong with wanting to grow. There is nothing wrong with admitting that you are learning. But notice what the word trying can quietly communicate. Not yet, not now, maybe someday. The desired quality remains somewhere in the future. Confidence becomes something you are chasing. Peace becomes something you might receive later. Worth becomes something you must earn. Abundance becomes something that belongs to another version of you. And without realizing it, the mind can become attached to the identity of the person who is always becoming but never arriving. The deeper teaching is not that you should pretend you already have everything. It is not asking you to deny your circumstances. It is inviting you to choose the inner posture from which you meet those circumstances. There is a sacred inner temple within you. Imagine entering it now. The world outside becomes quiet. The noise becomes distant. There are no opinions here, no comparisons, no performance, only you and the consciousness from which you have been living. At the entrance stands an older version of you. You recognize this person immediately. This is the version that learned to expect disappointment, the version that became cautious after being hurt, the version that believes everything must be controlled, the version that thinks love must be earned, the version that believes one mistake can destroy everything. Do not attack this version. Do not shame it. It was trying to protect you. Perhaps it learned fear because fear once helped you survive uncertainty. Perhaps it learned control because unpredictability once felt unbearable. Perhaps it learned distrust because trust had consequences. Look at that old identity with compassion, then tell it quietly. You protected me with the tools you knew, but you do not have to lead me anymore. Feel the difference. You are not fighting yourself. You are changing who receives authority inside you. This is where the law of substitution becomes deeply practical. You do not simply remove an old pattern and leave an empty space. You begin offering the mind a different direction. Instead of saying, I need to become peaceful, say, I choose peace as the way I meet this moment. Instead of, I need everyone to approve of me, say, I remain rooted in my worth regardless of approval. Instead of, I must force this opportunity, say, I take aligned action and remain open to the right door. Notice that these statements do not promise a perfect life. They do something more valuable. They establish a different relationship with life. Peace does not mean nothing difficult will happen. It means difficulty no longer automatically receives the authority to determine who you are. Worth does not mean everyone will recognize you. It means their recognition is no longer the foundation of your identity. Faith does not mean every door will open. It means you can remain responsive when one door closes. This is where metaphysical wisdom meets psychology. What you repeatedly believe about yourself influences what you notice. It influences which actions feel possible. It changes how you interpret setbacks. A person who believes I always fail may encounter an obstacle and immediately see proof that nothing will work. Another person may encounter the same obstacle and think, this did not work. What can I learn from it? The circumstance may be similar. The inner identity is different, and that difference changes behavior. Behavior changes choices. Choices create patterns. Patterns shape experience. This does not mean every difficulty is caused by your thoughts. It means your inner conversation is one of the places where you possess real influence. So ask yourself honestly, what would you stop doing if you no longer believed you had to prove your worth? What decision would become easier if fear were not allowed to write the story? Who would you become if your inner conversation stopped predicting defeat? Would you still chase approval from people who constantly make you question yourself? Would you continue saying yes when your soul is quietly saying no? Would you keep postponing the work because you are waiting to feel completely ready? Or would you take the next step from a calmer place. Close your eyes for a moment if that feels comfortable. See yourself standing inside that sacred inner temple. Notice the old identity behind you. You do not need to destroy it. You simply stop handing it the keys. Now see the calmer version of yourself standing ahead. This version still has problems, still has responsibilities, still experiences uncertainty. But this person does not immediately turn uncertainty into catastrophe. They breathe before reacting. They listen before deciding. They speak without abandoning themselves. They act without demanding absolute certainty. They trust without becoming passive. They know when to move. They know when to wait. They know when to release. This is not a fantasy version of you. It is a direction. Now speak from that identity. I release the identity that was built around fear. I receive the identity that is aligned with truth, wisdom, love, and divine order. I no longer need to rehearse defeat in order to prepare for life. I can meet uncertainty without becoming uncertainty. I can experience difficulty without making difficulty my identity. I can desire more without believing I am incomplete. Let those words move beyond your lips. Let them become a question. How would this version of me respond today, not tomorrow? Today, when the difficult message arrives, when the opportunity feels uncertain, when someone misunderstands you, when the old fear returns. This is where your new identity begins to become real. Not through pretending, through response. The old pattern may speak again. Let it speak. You do not have to obey it. The fearful thought may return. You do not have to build your house around it. The doubt may appear. You do not have to call it prophecy. You are learning to become the observer before becoming the reactor. And perhaps this is the deeper meaning of transformation. You are not manufacturing a completely different human being. You are becoming conscious enough to stop allowing your oldest fears to define every new moment. But there is one more truth you must understand. Knowing what to say is not enough. A declaration spoken once cannot erase years of unconscious conditioning. A beautiful affirmation cannot become a new life simply because you repeated it this morning. The new identity must enter your choices. It must enter your conversations. It must enter your reactions. It must enter the ordinary moments when nobody is watching. Because the real transformation begins when the words you speak in the sacred inner temple become the way you walk through the world. There is a moment when the noise inside you becomes quiet enough for you to finally hear yourself. Not the frightened voice that predicts disaster. Not the impatient voice demanding proof. Not the exhausted voice asking how much longer. The deeper voice beneath all of them. The one that can choose. You do not need another complicated spiritual system. You need a deliberate space in which you stop reacting automatically and begin observing consciously. 30 minutes can become such a space. Not because 30 minutes possesses magical power, and not because watching a video guarantees that life will suddenly rearrange itself. The value is in what you practice during those minutes. You are interrupting the old pattern long enough to choose a new one. 4 movements can guide you through this practice. Speak, see, surrender, move. Begin with speak. The words you use in private are not insignificant. They reveal the direction of your attention and can strengthen the inner state from which you make decisions. Florence Scovel Shinn placed great importance on the spoken word, and within that metaphysical framework, words are treated as expressions of consciousness. Use them consciously, not mechanically. Say, I am guided. Say, I am receptive to divine provision. Say, I choose peace over fear. Say, I trust the next wise step. Say, my words serve truth. Do not speak these sentences as if you are ordering the universe to obey you. Speak them as reminders of who you are choosing to be while life unfolds. There is a profound difference between declaration and denial. You are not saying that difficulty does not exist. You are deciding that difficulty does not get to define your entire inner world. Then move into see. Close your eyes if you are somewhere safe and comfortable to do so. Imagine yourself facing a situation that normally unsettles you. Perhaps it is a difficult conversation. Perhaps it is an uncertain financial decision. Perhaps it is a message you are afraid to receive. Perhaps it is an opportunity that once would have made you doubt yourself. Now see yourself responding differently. Notice your posture. Notice your breathing. Notice the absence of frantic explanation. You do not know everything, but you do not collapse because you do not know everything. Ask yourself, how would I carry myself if I trusted myself more? How would I respond if fear did not have to write the first sentence? What would I stop fearing? What would I begin doing? What would become possible if uncertainty were no longer treated as an emergency? This is visualization as rehearsal, not a guarantee. You are teaching your attention what a different response can feel like before the real moment arrives. Now comes the movement that requires the deepest honesty. Surrender. Say quietly, I know what I desire. I do not need to dictate every detail of how it arrives. This is where the law of non-resistance becomes practical. You can desire desire something deeply without gripping it so tightly that your peace depends upon one particular outcome. You can pray without turning prayer into surveillance. You can believe without constantly demanding evidence. Surrender does not mean becoming passive. It means releasing the struggle with what you cannot control. You release the exact route. You release the exact deadline. You release the need to interpret every delay. You keep the desire, the wisdom, the responsibility, and the willingness to act. Then you move. This is where spiritual practice leaves the sanctuary and enters ordinary life. If you desire financial stability, look honestly at your numbers. Review your spending. Develop useful skills. Search for appropriate opportunities. Ask for qualified guidance when necessary. If reconciliation is important, communicate wisely where communication is appropriate. If you are facing a health concern, seek qualified professional care. If you feel called toward a purpose, take the next concrete step instead of waiting for perfect certainty. Spiritual alignment should make you more responsible, not less. Faith should steady your hands while you work. Now imagine setting aside 30 minutes. During the first 10 minutes, speak. Write your chosen declarations. Read them slowly. Notice which words feel difficult to believe and ask why. Do not force yourself into exaggerated positivity. Choose language that is truthful, strengthening, and spiritually constructive. During the next 10 minutes, close your eyes and rehearse the inner state you want to cultivate. See yourself meeting uncertainty with composure. See yourself speaking with wisdom. See yourself refusing to abandon yourself when something goes wrong.